She's either shooting from deep, shooting off the dribble, or sprinting off screens into a fadeaway. Because of she's very rarely a wide open catch and shoot 3-point shooter, because they deny her 3/4 court. So it's one of those things when it comes to Caitlin where it's like, it's hard to Sabrina similar. Like, the 3-point numbers don't correlate with her ability as a shooter because of the gravity.
The Olympic debate around Caitlin Clark was supposed to be simple. Team USA made its decision. The roster was announced. The conversation should have ended there, but it didn't. Instead, the debate only got louder. Some fans believed the decision made sense. Team USA values experience. Chemistry matters. International tournaments reward players who have already played together. That's the official explanation, but many fans saw something different. They saw the most talked about player in basketball left off the biggest stage in the sport. And once that idea took hold, the conversation stopped being about roster construction. It became about perception.
Every pass I made had a purpose. Every movement was intentional. I wasn't playing like someone trying to survive. I was playing like someone who understood exactly what was happening. And slowly I started to feel something shift. You can see it in body language before you hear it in words. Teammates started moving with confidence. They trusted the timing, they trusted the rhythm. The offense wasn't stuck anymore. It was flowing, and the crowd felt it too.
Because when a player changes the level of attention around the league, every decision suddenly carries more weight. Every roster choice becomes a statement. Every omission becomes a storyline. The argument split basketball fans into two groups. One side believed Clark needed time. The other believed the league underestimated what she represents.
So she's like, yeah, she top 3.
Wow.
She might be 2. No, she's 1.
Oh.
She's 1.
Damn, that
Well,
question.
one.
Caitlin Clark, the most influential white athlete in all of history, Shady McCoy.
And he got to be white.
Caitlin Clark up there, bro.
She is the most influential women's athlete of all time. Who was watching women's basketball? Think about what we're talking about, though.
Nobody.
Baby. Yo, you wasn't. You wasn't. He wasn't. Nobody's watching girls basketball. And then we get this girl like Steph Curry. Everybody watching. To this day.
To this day.
Women's basketball is looked at like the NBA, like the NFL. They got their own channels now on ESPN. We talk about them on what was you ever at last time you heard people just talk about women's basketball on TV? Like a real block.
And now the situation has become even more interesting because the debate is about to move from studios and social media into something much harder to argue with. Actual basketball. Soon Clark will step onto the court with the USA women's national basketball team environment surrounding her again. And that changes everything because narratives are easy to defend in theory. They become much harder to defend when the game starts. If Clark struggles, critics will say the original decision was justified. But if she controls the pace, stretches the floor, and creates the same chaos defenses have struggled with for years, the Olympic debate won't end. It will restart. And that possibility is exactly why the next stretch of games matters more than most people realize. Because once the conversation moves from arguments to evidence, the narrative might not survive. But the Olympic debate is only one piece of the puzzle. The bigger story might actually be what Clark has already done to the league itself.
Caitlin Clark got the WNBA an entire new collective bargaining agreement. She got them a whole new NBA deal. She got the money they ain't never had before.
Right. Correct.
And eyes that they've never had before. Caitlin Clark, for what she has done. Now look, I think Serena, one of the most impactful women's athletes ever.
Yes,
but when
she
we talk about influence, brother, to make everyone care about the sport enough that there's Unrivaled, there's new 3-on-3 basketball leagues that people are actually watching, putting money behind, that there's other girls that have far bigger audiences than they've ever had before. People are watching women's basketball right now at a way higher clip without Caitlin Clark since she came into the game. Even when Caitlin Clark's not playing, the sport, women's basketball is more viewed than it was beforehand.
Right now, the story around Caitlin Clark feels unfinished. Growth was steady. Progress was happening, but the national spotlight still came and went in waves. Then Clark entered the league, and suddenly the spotlight stayed. Television ratings surged. Arenas started filling in cities that hadn't seen that level of attention in years. National media shows began discussing women's basketball on a daily basis. The sport didn't change overnight, but the attention did.
But why do you take a shot at the Golden Goose, Caitlin Clark? You guys were flying before she arrived on one of those airlines that made you pay for a cup of water. One of those airlines that is the planes are the color of a highlighter. Now you're flying private. Okay, if you're in a band and you're staying at the Motel 6 and you add a band member and now you're at the Ritz-Carlton, keep your issues to yourself. All right? You went from a Motel 6 in a sketchy part of town to a Four Seasons in the shopping district. Stop talking.
That's what people mean when they talk about the Clark effect. It's not just about points or assists. It's about gravity. The kind of gravity that pulls casual fans into games they might not have watched before. The kind of gravity that forces media outlets to cover stories they once ignored.
Up against each other.
Yeah.
It was already, Caitlyn was already built up to be a superstar. And that, as much as I do give Angel, everybody needs a great. Yes, and Angel being the advisor took it even further.
The race
because Caitlyn Clark's Fox News' darling.
It always does that. But I'll say this though, why it was hard to sell women's basketball, I think, for so long is because the skill wasn't there. Like some girls was, but not all of them. Now you say they doing step backs, they doing crossovers.
Now the skill level is crazy,
But for a while it was a whole bunch of layups, a lot of missed layups, a whole bunch of all that. When you watch Kate, you like, yo, who was that in college?
Nice.
Step back trades from half court. You like, yo, who is she? So her game was like, oh my God, let's watch.
Yeah, and she was white. Yeah, and that helped.
Yeah.
And once that level of attention arrives, it changes expectations. Suddenly, every performance matters more. Every debate becomes louder. Every narrative spreads faster. For the league, that attention is both an opportunity and a challenge. Because when one player becomes the center of the conversation, the pressure around that player increases dramatically. Critics look for weaknesses. Supporters defend every moment. And every game becomes part of a larger story about the direction of the sport. Clark didn't ask for that spotlight, but once it appeared, it became impossible to ignore. And now the league is adjusting to a new reality. A reality where one player's presence can shift the national conversation overnight. But attention alone doesn't explain why defenses look so uncomfortable when Clark has the ball. To understand that part of the story, you have to look at what actually happens on the court. Because the most interesting battle Clark faces might not be with the media or the league. It might be with the defenses trying to stop her.
Everybody wants to see star players. She's a connector. She brings people together.
Clark firing and hitting. Clark behind the back. It goes right to the window. Wow.
She's hard to defend all the time, not at times.
Clark launching and hitting. Clark splashing home a three. Clark the flick ahead. Oh, beautifully done. Touchdown Fever. Clark fires. You bet.
And then steps back with the three.
The most dangerous part of Caitlin Clark isn't just scoring, it's distance. Most players stretch defenses to the three-point line. Clark stretches them much farther. Defenders have to pick her up near half court, and that single adjustment changes everything. Once a defense extends that far, space appears everywhere else. Passing lanes open, driving lanes widen, transition opportunities become harder to stop. That's the real challenge Clark creates.
Caitlin Clark all night tonight.
Are you talking about my high school experience? Clark connects.
The young one here, Caitlin Clark, just dancing with the basketball, going to her left, stepping into it.
Back Bentley. Here's Clark, a good look from three. She got it. The first.
Caitlin Clark does not need much space here.
Defenses are forced into uncomfortable decisions. Guard her tightly and risk being blown past. Give her space and risk a shot from distances most players never attempt. But the scoring threat is only half the problem. Clark's passing makes the situation even more complicated. She sees angles that most defenses aren't expecting. Skip passes across the court, quick reads in transition, assists that arrive before defenders realize the play has started.
Samuelson, nice pass there to Clark. Clark behind the back. Oh, it's Smith with the finish. Brilliance from Caitlin Clark.
Here's just 1 of 5. How about back? Bidley running the floor there.
probing, drags out Nelson Adota. Clark will fire and hit the three.
When a player combines deep shooting range with elite court vision, traditional defensive strategies start to break down. Double teams open passing lanes. Drop coverage invites long shots. Aggressive pressure creates transition chances.
What a pass. And Wallace.
Got a little separation. Clark circling around, sets up Samuelson, who's wide open and cashes it.
Absolutely blown the roof off.
But playing at UConn, she is used to all of this. Oh, Caitlin Clark, rookie on rookie.
Every solution introduces a new problem. That's why defenses still look uncertain. They're not just guarding a player. They're guarding a style of basketball that stretches the floor farther than most systems are built to handle. And when a player consistently forces defenses out of their comfort zone, the conversation around that player inevitably grows. Which brings us back to the biggest question surrounding Clark right now, because soon she'll be playing under a level of attention that will test every part of her game. And when that moment arrives, the entire debate around her might finally get its answer.
You've talked a lot about Magic Johnson and how he's impacted and elevated the NBA. Do you feel like Caitlin has done something similar for the W?
Yes, 100%. I think when you look at what Caitlin Clark and really the rivalries that started in college and Angel Reese and those games, that buzz from college brought that energy to the WNBA. Very similar to how the rivalry between Magic and Larry brought that rivalry to the NBA, and then it continued to grow.
Right now, the story around Caitlin Clark feels unfinished. The narratives are forming. The debates are still active. And both supporters and critics believe the next stretch of games will prove their point. Moments like this are rare in sports, because sometimes a player arrives who forces everyone to reconsider what they thought they understood about the game. Clark has already changed how defenses approach long-range shooters. She has already changed the level of attention surrounding women's basketball. But the next chapter might be the most important one yet. Soon, Clark will step onto the court in an environment that brings together all the arguments surrounding her career. The media narratives, the Olympic debate, the expectations around the league, and the questions about whether her style of play translates to every level of competition. That stage will include the environment surrounding the USA women's national basketball team. And once the game begins, every theory will collide with reality. If Clark dominates the pace, critics will have to rethink their assumptions. If she struggles, supporters will argue the story is still being written. Either way, the debate will continue, because the most interesting part of the Caitlin Clark story has never been a single game. It's the tension between expectation and evidence. And that tension is exactly what keeps fans watching. The next performance might not end the conversation, but it will almost certainly change it. And if you're still watching right now, drop Clark era in the comments.
The truth is, the moment I walked into that Team USA gym, I already knew what everyone was thinking about me. Nobody had to say it out loud. I had heard it for months. I wasn't ready. I didn't belong. I wasn't chosen when it mattered most. The Olympic roster came out, and my name wasn't on it. That moment stayed with me, not because it broke me, but because it showed me exactly where I stood, or at least where people thought I stood. So when I stepped onto that floor for my Team USA debut, I wasn't there to prove them wrong with words. I was there to let the game speak for me.
For months, the basketball world has been arguing about one question. Is Caitlin Clark actually ready for Team USA? The debate has been everywhere. Studio shows, podcasts, social media. Some analysts insist Clark still needs time to adjust to the professional game. They say the speed is different, the defenses are stronger, the physicality is tougher. Others see something completely different.
A lot of people think nothing of this, but look, Caitlin is so careful with her image. At the time when everyone was calling her a scab for no reason, there was nothing really happening with Caitlin. She wasn't really posting anything. But now, the Indiana Fever are going pretty much all in with Caitlin Clark stuff. And in this workout, 22 of 25 beyond the arc. Can't lie. That is a really, really good showing from her.
They see a player who bends defenses in ways most teams still don't understand. A player whose shooting range stretches the floor so far that defensive systems start to break. But arguments only go so far. At some point, basketball conversations have to move from theory to evidence. And that moment might finally be arriving. Because soon, Clark will step onto the court in an environment connected to the USA women's national basketball team.
So, as of right now, the WNBA is still going through what they're going through. But some news came out today that lifted my spirits from here to the damn ceiling. That is because Team USA basketball is on the way. And guess who made the team to qualify? Our good home girl, Caitlin Clark.
And when that happens, the debate changes. Suddenly, it isn't about opinions anymore. It becomes about performance. If Clark controls the pace of the game, stretches the defense, and creates the same chaos she's created everywhere else, the not ready narrative starts to look very different. But if she struggles against elite competition, critics will feel validated. That's why the next game matters so much. It's not just another appearance. It's a moment where months of debate collide with real basketball. And when that happens, the conversation around Clark could change very quickly. But there's another reason the tension around this game feels so intense. Because the narrative surrounding Clark hasn't stayed the same. In fact, if you listen closely to the media right now, the tone is already starting to shift.
She is coming back. Her, Paige Beckers, Kalia Copper, Chelsea Gray, Darica Hamby, Ryan Howard, Kiki Efron, Kelsey Plum, Angel Reese, Jackie Young, all of them will be on one team. Now, what's surprising me is that Asia Wilson's not on this team. You know, she's not there. But if she's supposed to be the Kobe, the Michael Jordan of the women's basketball, why the hell she ain't on this team? Just saying. Y'all say she the best, right? Why she ain't on here? But that's neither here or there, because Caitlin Clark is definitely on this damn team, man.
For most of the past year, the message around Caitlin Clark was incredibly consistent. She wasn't ready yet. That phrase showed up everywhere. Not ready for the physicality, not ready for the speed, not ready for the international stage.
So what woman is more popular?
If you wanna go from a marketing perspective, sure, Caitlin is extremely marketable. However, I just want to pitch this to everyone. Imagine Caitlin joining this team and spending time on the bench. What is the conversation going to be about the entire time the Olympics is going on? Why isn't Caitlin getting more minutes? Why isn't Caitlin playing? I'm sure people will tune in, but what will the conversation be then? I think it's really interesting. Head coach Christy Sides for the Indiana Fever said that a monster was woken up in Caitlin Clark, and I think that is wonderful. I think motivation for Caitlin is wonderful. I'm gonna say this, a monster has been woken in all of the women that were selected for the Olympic team also, because the conversation is again centered around Caitlin Clark.
But something interesting has started happening recently. The language is changing. You don't hear "not ready" as often anymore. Instead, analysts are saying things like, "She's adjusting quickly." You can see how special the talent is. She might be ahead of schedule. At first, those comments might sound harmless, but they actually represent a massive shift because narratives in sports rarely disappear overnight. They evolve slowly. When analysts sense that the evidence is moving in a different direction, the tone starts to soften. Criticism becomes caution, certainty becomes possibility. And suddenly the same player who was once described as a long-term project starts to look like someone who might accelerate the timeline. That's exactly what appears to be happening right now. The basketball world is preparing itself for a potential outcome. Because if Clark steps into the next major stage and performs the way many fans believe she can, the old narrative becomes impossible to maintain. And that stage is approaching quickly. But the media narrative isn't the only part of this story that still hasn't settled. There's another argument that refuses to disappear, the one that started the biggest controversy surrounding Clark in the first place: the Olympic debate. When Team USA announced its Olympic roster, many people expected the conversation to end. The decision had been made, the roster was set, the debate should have been finished. But it wasn't. Instead, the argument surrounding Caitlin Clark only grew louder. Supporters believed the omission made no sense. They saw the most talked about player in basketball left off the biggest international stage. Critics argued the opposite. They said Olympic teams rely on experience. Chemistry matters. Veterans understand the pressure of international tournaments. Both arguments sounded reasonable.
Because you have to imagine we're asking her why she wasn't put on the team. We would probably go to her and say, why was Caitlin put on the team? And if they felt like their only answer was going to be based on marketing, or their best answer or their best reason was based on marketing, not experience, not chemistry with the team, not knowledge of international basketball, not feeling fresh, because there's no way she feels fresh. She's been playing basketball since November with one of the highest usage rates we've ever seen. And her usage is the exact same for the Indiana Fever. So you have to think about when Jim Rosati, if she were to answer that question about Caitlin making the team, what was her answer going to be? It wasn't going to have any grounding in her being able to contribute in chasing gold versus the other players.
But something unexpected happened after the roster announcement. The conversation refused to fade. Every time Clark performed well, the debate resurfaced. Every highlight reignited the discussion. Every strong performance raised the same question again. What would she look like in that environment? That's why the upcoming stretch of games feels so important, because it offers something the debate has been missing: evidence. If Clark thrives in high-level competition connected to the Team USA environment, the Olympic conversation won't disappear. It will restart. But the Olympic debate is only one reason the spotlight around Clark keeps growing. The bigger story might actually be what she's already done to the league itself, because the attention surrounding Clark has changed something much larger than a single roster decision. Before Caitlin Clark arrived, the WNBA conversation followed a familiar rhythm. Games were competitive, stars were respected, but the national spotlight came and went. Then Clark entered the league, and suddenly the attention stayed. Television ratings climbed, arena attendance increased, national sports shows started discussing the league more regularly. The change didn't happen because the sport was suddenly different. It happened because attention moved. Clark brought a level of visibility that forced people to pay attention. Casual fans tuned in. Debates became louder. Highlights traveled faster across social media. And once that level of attention arrives, expectations change. Every performance is analyzed. Every storyline grows larger. Every debate spreads further than before. For the league, this attention creates both opportunity and pressure. Because when one player becomes the center of the conversation, every moment involving that player carries extra weight. Clark didn't create the spotlight alone, but she accelerated it. And now the league is adjusting to a reality where one player can influence the entire basketball conversation. But while the attention surrounding Clark continues to grow, the most interesting battle might still be happening on the court, because defenses still look unsure about how to stop her, and that might be the biggest reason the upcoming game could change everything. Right now, the story surrounding Caitlin Clark feels like it's building towards something. The debates are active, the narratives are shifting, and both supporters and critics believe the next performance will prove their point. Moments like this are rare in sports, because occasionally a player arrives who forces the entire basketball world to reconsider its assumptions. Clark's shooting range has stretched defenses farther than most teams are comfortable defending. Her passing vision creates opportunities that appear before defenders even recognize the play, and the pace she plays with forces opponents to react instead of control the game. But now the conversation is moving toward a much larger stage. Soon Clark will step onto the court in an environment connected to the USA women's national basketball team. And when that game begins, the debates surrounding her will face their biggest test yet. If Clark dominates the pace and controls the game, the not ready narrative might collapse overnight. If she struggles, critics will say the skepticism was justified. Either way, the conversation will change, because once the ball tips and the lights come on, arguments disappear. Only basketball remains. And if you're still watching right now, drop March 11th in the comments.